Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the 11 books that I read in February. I know this video is coming out a little later into the month than I normally post them. That is because at the start of this month, my husband and I and my twin sister and her partner all went to Universal Studios, so I was gone on the first Monday, which is when I normally post my TBR. And so then the second Monday I would have been posting my wrap-up, but it is now the third Monday because everything got pushed back a week. So sorry about that, but without further ado, let's get into the 11 books that I read in February. I had no DNFs, which I have not had a single DNF so far this year. So doing pretty good with that, I guess. But out of the 11 books, 6 of them were romances, which I haven't had a very romance-heavy month in a while, but because February is Valentine's Day, and I did a whole video where I read romance books to get me in the mood for Valentine's Day, I read a lot of romance books. And then 3 of them were fantasy. I had 1 mystery/thriller and 1 manga/graphic novel. I read a lot this month on my Kindle/audio because I have a free trial of Kindle Unlimited right now because I read the first, which you'll see it's the first book that I read this month, but I read the first book in a series on Prime Reading because that's all I had originally, and I needed to immediately, or as soon as possible, start the next book in that series because it ended on a cliffhanger and I just needed to know what happened in the story, so I didn't want to buy the full physical copies of the series yet because I'm waiting for Target to do their buy 2 get 1 free on books so that I can buy them all at once and get a little bit of a discount on them. But Kindle Unlimited has the entire series on Kindle Unlimited, and I had a 2-month free trial, so I started it, and now I've read the first 3 out of the 5 books in the series. 2 of them will be in this wrap-up. 1 of them will be in March's wrap-up. Possibly 2 of them if I read the next one in this month also. But that's my whole little spiel. All that to say, because I read so much on my Kindle and audio, I only have 5 physical books of the 11 books that I read this month. So 6 of them will just be pictures up on the screen. Sorry about that, but yeah. Anyway, let's just get into it. The first book that I read this month is Binding 13. This is the series that I was talking about. I immediately had to know what happened, but I loved this book, surprisingly, way more than I thought I was going to, because I've said in the past that specifically YA romance isn't really my genre anymore. A lot of the times it's cringy and just, I don't really enjoy them, and the highest I rate them is like a 3. So I kind of have stopped reading just strictly YA romance. But I have seen so many people talking about this series that when I saw the first one was available on Prime Reading, I decided to pick it up and read it, see what all the hype was about, and boy was I blown away. I gave it 5 stars, I think because this series touches on some very heavy topics, which I was not really expecting. I mean, I knew it I knew it touched on some heavier topics because I have seen people posting that they're really heavy, but I didn't know what topics it touched on, and I will say check your trigger warnings before going into the series, because some of the stuff that they do mention is very heavy. But because of that reason, it didn't feel like I was reading a YA book. So I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. Hold on. Sorry. My dog started barking and I got nervous that the maintenance people were coming back because it rained pretty hard last week and we had a leak in the ceiling. So we let maintenance know. They had to get someone else from like outside their maintenance team to come and fix it. And they came this morning, but I thought that they were coming back to tell me it was done or something. So, but they weren't. Anyway, yeah, it does touch on some heavier topics, but I think because of those heavier topics within the book, it felt like I was reading like an adult romance book and not necessarily a YA. So I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. I could not put it down. It was so good, which is weird to say that it was such a good book when it had so much trauma and heaviness inside the book, but I loved it. Johnny and Shannon are so cute together and I love them. I don't want to say too much about this book. I don't want to spoil anything that happens in the book and that's heavier topics that are talked about in the book. I don't want to like spoil them for people, but check your trigger warnings if you get triggered easily with books. On to the next. The second book I read this month was After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is my least favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid that I have read to date, and I think I literally only have one more of her already published books that I need to read, and then obviously Atmosphere when it comes out later this year. This one I gave 3.5 stars. It just wasn't what I was expecting, and the story I did not really connect to. I didn't connect to the two characters. I wasn't necessarily rooting for them, but I wasn't like not rooting for them. But I just like, I had no connection to the story or the characters in this book, and I read it in that video where I was reading romances to get me in the Valentine's Day spirit, and it did not get me in the Valentine's Day spirit because it's about two people that are struggling in their marriage and they decide to separate for a year to see how they feel, if they want to get divorced, if they want to stay together. And so the majority of the book they are separated and not together and questioning if they want to be together, and they're like dating other people in that year. It just, I did not really enjoy it. I gave it 3.5. Looking back on it, maybe even just a 3-star, but there were a couple moments in the book where I felt a little something, but besides that, it just was not my cup of tea. I did not really enjoy it that much. It was still good, but it was just, I think I would have liked it more if I didn't go into it expecting a cute little romance book, which is what I was expecting. So I was completely thrown off and it just was not what I was expecting, and I think that's why I didn't enjoy it as much. Otherwise I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more, but it is what it is. The next book I read was The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. This one was also 3.5 stars, and it was my first ever Lynn Painter book, and I enjoyed it. See, now I feel like I definitely should go back and adjust After I Do to a 3-star, because I rated this one 3.5 and After I Do 3.5, and I enjoyed this one so much more. So I think After I Do, I'm changing to a 3-star. I'm saying it. This one, however, I really did enjoy. It was 3.5 stars. It starts with the main girl, Hallie is her name, and Jack. It starts out with Hallie working a wedding. She's a bartender, and Jack is the best man at this wedding / brother of the bride. And they end up having a one-night stand at the end of this wedding, and then they decide to both go onto a dating app, and they find each other on the dating app, and they decide to be each other's wing person while they are trying to find the love of their life. Obviously, they end up being the love of their lives, because you can't be the main couple in a romance book and not fall in love by the end. It's just not gonna happen. It wouldn't be a romance book if you didn't fall in love at the end. So, also Luna decided to come and say hi, so here she is. This is my dog. Her name is Luna. She's so cute. The next book that I read is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This was the last book I needed to read in that little trilogy that she has, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't like it as much as I liked Just for the Summer, but I did like it just as much as Yours Truly. Those two basically felt like the same, but I was really invested in the story. I wanted to know what was going to happen because I didn't really know how they were going to end up together, because they came from 2 completely different worlds, and sometimes it's like so obvious to see how they will end up together, but with this one specifically, I like wasn't really sure how they were going to reconcile all of that. So, but I really liked the story and characters, so yeah, don't really have much else to say on that book. The next book that I read is Skyshade by Alex Astor. This is I thought it was just going to be a trilogy for the Lightlark series, but it definitely is not just a trilogy, because this ends on kind of a cliffhanger. Not as bad of a cliffhanger as the second book, but it still ends on one. I gave this one 4 stars as well. I enjoyed it. I think my favorite one of this series so far is the second book, but I did enjoy it. It just continues the story of Isla and everything that they're going through, the start of a war. She's kind of learning more things about herself, and I can't say too much without giving anything away because it's the 3rd book in a series, but the first book is about all of these rulers of different isles that come together that all are cursed, like all of their people are cursed, and they come together every 10 years or 100 years, something, I don't remember how many years. But they come together to do this like competition, and the winner will break all of the people's curses. So that's how the first book goes. And then the second book follows Isla still, but she is it follows more the stuff that happens before the Centennial, before that competition, and you get to learn more of Isla's background. And then this one, I mean, it still follows a little bit of stuff that happened after the Centennial, but you are getting like flashbacks of stuff that happened before. This one is just continuing what happened after the Centennial, but I enjoy this trilogy. It's not my favorite fantasy series, but it's good, so yeah. The next book that I read was Wild Eyes. I loved this one. I gave it 5 stars. 2 new 5 stars in February. What a great month. But I really enjoyed this. I loved Skylar and West. They were the cutest little couple. I really liked the whole premise of Skylar being a country singer who needs to get out of the fame, falls in love with a country man. But West, as a single dad, he was just the best single dad in the history of single dads. He was so great to his kids and did everything for his kids. And the way that he jokes with his kids, but then also is so tender with them, like, it was just, he is the best single dad. So that was a big reason why I loved them, because the kids in this book were just absolutely adorable, and the way that his son opens up to Skylar when he doesn't talk to very many people was just so cute. And then just seeing how his relationship with his own kids kind of healed Skylar's inner child, because she didn't have a good relationship with her parents. And so it just kind of like healed that part of her. It was just chef's kiss. 5 stars. Would recommend. I'm currently reading Wild Side, the 3rd one in this series, so needless to say, I am really enjoying this series, and I need to read more Elsie Silver books. And then I read Keeping 13, which is the 2nd book in the Boys of Tommen series. I really enjoyed this one as well. I didn't like it quite as much as Binding 13, so I'm giving it a 4.5 star, but I still really enjoyed it. I loved getting to see the continuation of Johnny and Shannon's relationship and how it develops and played out. And it did pick up literally exactly where Binding 13 left off, which I am so very happy and thankful about, because it ends on such a big cliffhanger that I just wanted to dive in and know exactly what happened next. And it literally, like, word for word, the last sentence of Binding 13 is like the first sentence of Keeping 13. So it literally picks up exactly where Binding 13 leaves off. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And yeah, it still definitely keeps with the same hard themes and trauma that happens in Binding 13, and something else happens in Keeping 13 that is also very traumatic. That's a different kind of trauma, but like crazy. I loved it. 4.5. I am really enjoying that series so far. Getting crazy to say because it is so traumatic, but it's so good. The next book that I read was me finishing my Harry Potter reread. So I read Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I am fully done with my Harry Potter reread now, which is sad to say because I love this series and it will always have a special place in my heart. 5-star reread like all of them have been. Not going to dive into it or say what happens because it's the last book in the series and most people know at least the gist of what happens in Harry Potter. So it doesn't, I don't really need to say much about this, and I can't say much about this without giving anything away. Luna, stop looking. Without giving anything away that happens, so just know I read it in February. And then I read Home is Where the Bodies Are. This is a Geneva Rose book, I believe. Yes, it is. I thought it was fun. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite thriller mystery, but it wasn't my least favorite. It was very predictable. I felt like I knew where things were going pretty quickly, but it was still really interesting, and seeing the dynamic between the 3 siblings after their mom died was interesting. they all have their own journey that they went on, but I could see where it was going and I figured it out pretty quickly, so 3 stars because of that. And then I read Heartless Hunter. This is the first book in the Crimson Moth duology. The second one came out in February, but I haven't picked it up yet. But I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. This was the book club's pick. I'm in a online book club basically with my best friend. She lives in Florida, so she doesn't live here, so we can't do a book club here. But she has some friends that they all get together, and then me and my sister FaceTime in. So this was our February book, which was actually my pick. And I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I thought the magic system in this book was really intriguing and interesting. I liked the storyline. It follows Rune, who by day is a socialite in the Regency time, but then by night she is the Crimson Moth and goes around and tries to save witches from getting captured and executed by the Blood Guard, and then she ends up basically falling in love with the head Blood Guard. Gideon is his name, and I just loved the story. I loved Rune and her relationship with her friends and just the whole premise of it. It did end on like kind of a cliffhanger-ish, and so I do definitely want to pick up the next one soon. And it's just a duology, which is great because then you don't have to sit there and wait for 7 books to come out in a series, because that is always the worst. But I'm excited to read the next one and see how the story ends, because I don't really know what's going to happen. I can't say much else without giving things away that happen in this book, and I don't want to give anything away. So we'll move on to the last book that I read this month, which was Volume 8 of Spy Family. I love this little series. 3 stars. That's basically my designated rating for graphic novels. I say that every time, but it takes a lot for a graphic novel to be rated higher than that for me, because I enjoy them, but they're just there. But this is the 8th volume, so I can't say much without giving it away, and I've already touched on what this book series is every month, because I feel like every month I have at least one on here. But follows a spy and his fake family, and his wife's an assassin, his daughter's a telepath, and their dog can see the future. That's all I'm saying. None of them know each other's secrets except the daughter. The daughter knows everyone's secrets because she can read minds. No one else knows each other's secrets. It's so fun. Give it a try if you want a new graphic novel manga series. With that being said, that is all of the books that I read in February. I don't think I mentioned my TBR. I did read in February. I read 5 of the 6 books that I had on my February TBR, but since then I have read that 6th one. So technically I read every book on February's TBR, but I just read one of them in March, so doesn't count. But that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing me chit chat about all the books that I read in February. Let me know if you've read any of these, or if any of these are your favorites, or if any of them are on your TBR, and I would love to chat in the comments about it. Let me know in the comments below also if there are any reading vlogs that you guys would like to see, because always trying to come up with those. I will see you guys in my next video, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye!